family and the culture, they don't accept it. So being open to it and knowing where it comes from does not mean that it is something that is accepted. And I have not seen a single Nigerian that happy to see somebody be blind or somebody deaf or somebody, in a wheelchair. I'm yet to see a single Nigerian that does not feel something stirring within them when they see that. And so therefore, everybody tries to help with whatever they can. And the majority of people, what they can help with is their prayer. It's just that it just puts a lot of pressure on the person that they're praying for. Nigeria is the only airport where security are like, "Is well with you in Jesus' name, you are healed in the name of Jesus, come to my church, I don't get offended by it at all, personally. Not very many people have access. The majority of people with limited capabilities in Nigeria are still being looked after essentially by their family. When people had certain conditions, of course, it was never really thought about as a medical condition. It was always maybe, somebody in the village or somebody sending witches at night towards them. Medically, problems were not necessarily dealt with. But I think now it's changing and people are beginning to realize that there are actually medical conditions that cause some of these limited capabilities. And the truth of the matter is that anything can happen. I tell people anything can happen to anyone at any time. You never know when it's going to be you that get a stroke, or you don't know when some idiot is going to run over your car. You don't know what's going to happen or what can happen.
This week, we discuss managing disabilities in Nigeria. Generally speaking, a disability includes any form of long-term physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory impairment, which in interaction with various barriers may hinder full and effective participation in society on equal basis with others. This limits how someone can interact with society, get around society, do things, the day-to-day activities which you would expect of any capable and able body. On January 23, 2019, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari signed a bill into law, also known as the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Act of 2018. This was following 9 years of relentless advocacy by disability rights groups and activists. According to a report from the World Health Organization, at least 25 million Nigerians have some type of disabilities. And many of them face a number of human rights abuses, things like societal stigma, discrimination against them, violence, and in some cases they are being attacked. And there are instances where children with disabilities are being monetized. You see a lot of this with kids being sent out in traffic to beg, and there's someone who's actually collecting all the funds that the kids make daily. There's also the lack of access to healthcare, housing, education, and all the general amenities that you expect of any society. This law actually prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability and imposes several sanctions, including fines and prison sentences to an extent, to those who contravene it. However, a lot is still expected of this law, not only because the government doesn't really and haven't really done much about it, but also the society as a whole, many of whom don't even know this law exists. Today, I sit together with a guest of mine who is an advocate for disabilities and people dealing with disabilities in Nigeria. It was quite intuitive because I got to learn a lot from it, and I'm hopeful that you also learn a lot from it as well. More importantly, that you be more compassionate and that you pay more attention to those around you that are dealing with disabilities. I hope you enjoy this show as much as I have, and I also hope that you take a thing or two out of it and help live a more compassionate life and be more compassionate towards the disabled that we encounter on our day-to-day life. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Lost Lagosians, a podcast covering topics about Lagosians, Nigerians, and Africans in diaspora, as well as trending topics and challenges facing Africans living inside and outside of Africa. I'm your host, Brother Mike. Today, we have a very, very special guest, one that is very difficult to get hold of. We've been trying to set this up a few times. She's very, very busy, so much on her plate. So I would be doing a drum roll here, but I have no drums to roll. So without further ado, let's bring in the one and only Mrs. Yemisi.
Hello.
Yes, thank you so much for being on here. Super excited and quite pumped to have you on.
Thank you very much.
What an honor, what a privilege, what an opportunity to kind of pick your brains and kind of hear some of your knowledge and thoughts on the things we're going to be talking about today. So thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. If you wanted to give our audience a little bit about who you are, who the Mrs. Yemisi Ilo is, and just a quick intro.
Okay, so my name, as you know, is Yemisi Ilo, and I'm a wife. I'm a mother of 4, and I'm a freelance creative entrepreneur. And I am a publisher, actually, by training. And I'm a content producer. And I have done many different kinds of projects in the past, including a very interesting one called The Apprentice Africa, for those that are old enough to remember The Apprentice. So I worked on the African version of that. And I was also privileged enough to be the executive producer for Sesame Square, which is a Nigerian version of Sesame Street, where we produced 7 to 8 episodes. And it's still running on NTA today, every Saturday morning. That is how I would like to describe myself. So I've done a lot of video production in the past. And that's me in a nutshell.
I also know that you are a world traveler. I don't know why, we kind of left that part out. But I want to give you more credit than you're giving yourself. You're giving your humility. Is that something you'd like to speak on as well? Just a little bit of humble brag.
Oh, well, I like to travel a lot. I love it. I enjoy it. I've been to a lot of different places, actually. And, definitely Nigeria is one of the most interesting places I've ever visited / lived / everything. But
How would you say in one sentence compare the difference between Nigeria and wherever else you've been?
Wow. So I've been to so many different types of places, but I would say in one sentence that Nigeria no go carry last.
Oh, Nigerian no carry last. I love that. Yeah.
I wanted to also talk about how you are, how Nigeria is, kind of in general, the environment. So just your general thoughts on things going on around you.
Well, currently, a lot of people just seem to be too sad, and almost despondent. People are definitely looking forward to the elections next year, but we have a lot of cynics. People who have already given up even before the elections. So I think they're getting more expensive, but that's all over the world. So it's not anything. It's all over the world. But here, our rate of inflation is so high that it's just crazy. But Nigerians are very resilient people. And I just pray that the resilience carries over until February next year.
Yes, that's what we all pray and hope for. So, but talking about something, that I've also had, that I have near and dear to my heart, is kind of how difficult it is for folks in Nigeria sometimes to get around, maybe because of one thing or another, regarding the society and the system not being capable of supporting some of our citizenry. So I'm based here in the US, and I know there are many, many laws and regulations and even infrastructure in place to support, say, for example, the elderly. The elderly are really, really a particular group of people that are taken care of here significantly, actually, because they took care of us, the younger ones. So the question I have for you is, how is that, for example, received in Nigeria?
It's unfortunate because, okay, well, the fortunate thing is that there are many NGOs and private organizations that do cater for the elderly and do cater for people with physical challenges. But it's a drop in an ocean, right? And of course, not very many people have access to that. The majority of people with limited capabilities in Nigeria are still being looked after essentially by their families and are not encouraged to really try to do anything for themselves, which includes trying to go out and living what you would call a normal life. You see? So, yeah. But in terms of any sort of governmental support, I don't know of any. I don't know of any. And I use a wheelchair. I don't know of any.
Yeah, so let's set the government aside for a minute, if we could, because the government is a very, very convoluted it's a convoluted conversation to have. So we're to put government aside for a minute, but if we talked about things like the society, because I want to think that the government is a solution or a problem, but I also think society is also another component. By society, I mean the culture, the perception, the religion, and the belief, the tradition and custom. So, what role does that play?
Wow, that's a very interesting question. And I think that it's changed or it's changing. I think that maybe back in the day, when people had certain conditions, of course, it was never really thought out as a medical condition. It was always maybe, I don't know, somebody in the village or somebody sending witches at night towards them. Do you know what I mean? So medically, problems were not necessarily dealt with. But I think now it's changing and people are beginning to realize that there are actually medical conditions that cause some of these limited capabilities, especially because diabetes is on the rise. If I let me know even on the rise, it has risen. It has already risen and is rising even faster, right? And we know that with diabetes comes lots of physical challenges, amputations might happen, blindness as a result of diabetes. So I think people are beginning to become more aware
Did you say
of how
diabetes? Did you say diabetes?
Yeah, diabetes.
Okay. I just wasn't. I didn't get that with them. Okay.
How do you say it in American?
Oh,
we speak English. I don't know. How do you say that?
I don't know if I can say it perfectly because I'm also a Nigerian, but it's diabetes. Diabetes. Yeah, the T is kind of silent.
Diabetes. Yeah, you say diabetes. Okay, you know you say diabetes.
All right, diabetes.
So yeah, but diabetes comes with blindness and amputation,
okay,
and all that sort of stuff. And diabetes is on the rise, and so people are becoming more, I think, more aware of where these conditions come from or may arise from.
Okay. So that makes the family. That makes the family more open to it then, because we're talking about society, family. People are beginning to get more exposure to it.
Definitely. So yes, families are open to it. The culture is open to it. However, the family and the culture they don't accept it. But being open to it and knowing where it comes from does not mean that it is something that is accepted. When I say accepted, it means that people will pray it away. They will chase it away with prayers.
Oh,
I think that
they'll pray it away. Oh my God. That's a deep one.
Yeah, it puts a lot of pressure on the sufferer. It puts a lot of pressure on the sufferer. Whereas the case of, oh, you don't have enough faith. You don't have enough faith. That's why,
or maybe you are a sinner.
That's why you're in this condition. Sorry?
Maybe you are a sinner. Some people can say you are a sinner. Sinner, like you committed a sin, like you did something to God, or you offended God, like you sinned. Do you hear some of that though?
Yeah.
Go and ask for forgiveness, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure generally, and the family and the culture. I don't believe they're doing it in good faith. They're just Nigerians do. I think Nigerians are generally quite empathetic people, right? And I have not seen a single Nigerian that happy to see somebody be blind or somebody deaf or somebody in a wheelchair. I'm yet to see a single Nigerian that does not feel something stirring within them when they see that. And so therefore, everybody tries to help with whatever they can. And the majority of people, what they can help with is their prayers. It's just that it just puts a lot of pressure on the person that they're praying for in some cases when it's overdone. I mean, I take myself for example. So when I go through security at the airport, Nigeria is the only airport. Okay, I think it happened to me once at Heathrow, but generally Nigeria is the only airport where security are like, "Is well with you in Jesus' name, you are healed in the name of Jesus, come to my church, come to my church." I don't get offended by it at all personally, but I find that my husband sometimes does. And another lady that works with me, she used to get really, really pissed off. Like, do they think we're not praying? Do they think we're not praying? Do they think we're doing sinners? I'm like, just calm down. Doing what they feel that they're offering what they feel that they can.
Yeah.
But society is not geared up.
I'm just like, I'm shaking my head here because is that just a function of ignorance or illiteracy, or what's the cause of those kind of reception from like Nigerians at the airports, for example?
I think it's because they know that there isn't any other option really here in this country for people that are, that have chronic illnesses or disabilities. We just look. This month alone, there are 10,000 Nigerian doctors in the UK. 10,000. So really here they say, oh, you're on your own, basically. And so they know that, look, there isn't really anything else. So that's what they will offer to you. I mean, there's no need for security or anybody else abroad to be doing that because they've got good health systems and they believe that the doctors will take care of them. So they don't feel the need to go the divine route.
Mm-hmm.
So, but society, is geared up for disability. Think about families now, but society is not ready, not in this part of the world. I mean, they will make comments like, we have not yet dealt with people that are able-bodied. Able-bodied people are suffering. How are we going to now start dealing with people that are not able-bodied? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's things like, we have able-bodied people yet, let alone trying to sort out, people that are not able-bodied, you know?
The expectation, the way I see this, if you were to try to provide, I don't know, let's say the government was really listening to this episode, the expectation is to have the House of Representatives or maybe the local legislation, for example, to come up with infrastructure bills. What that means is like here in the US, we have something called the ADA, which is the American with Disabilities Act that George Bush did, George Bush Sr. And what that means is that every new building that gets built is just a simple legislation. The government is not paying for anything. The government doesn't do anything. The government those in government just said every new build that gets built, this was from the 90s. Oh, you think we have that in Nigeria?
I think we have that here.
Maybe we do, but
yes, I think we have that here.
Is that being followed though?
There was but it's unenforced.
Yeah, it's not enforced. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So for those who don't know, though, the American with Disabilities Act just says every new building you need to have like access for all Americans, regardless of whatever their condition is. If it's a public building, all Americans need to have access to it. So if the government just does something like that, and to your point, if they enforced it, the government doesn't have to pay for it. It's just a legislation that they make sure that every new buildings that are public buildings, they have access to disabilities. Now, I know with hospitals, a lot of hospitals in Nigeria have that. I know that, but I don't know about other places that are public facing. And maybe some do, maybe not that many do. But
example,
yeah.
Would we consider a bank a public building?
Of course, a bank is a public building. Absolutely.
Okay. So here's the stupidity of Nigerians. Sorry to be abusing people now. I'm seeing my accent has even changed now.
Don't worry, right? You're fine. We're all Nigerians on this call. And I hope there are many Nigerians listening.
What these banks do, they have ramps, right? They have ramps that have not actually been built to spec. So they have these ramps that go up to the doors. But you see, you cannot get a wheelchair through the doors because the doors are too narrow, to the security doors. So if you are a wheelchair user in Nigeria today, you cannot access any banking form. Cannot do it. I mean, there was once where I decided to be a nuisance, and I was in the car, was being kept waiting for so long. I decided to get out of the car, get on my wheelchair, and go right up to the door and ask, I wanted to go in. And all the security started begging me, and all the other customers and all people started begging me, oh, madam, please, sorry, and they'll come and see you, they'll attend to you in your car very soon. Oh, sorry, madam. Do you know what I mean? Because I cannot access the banking, so I have to basically have the bankers come out to me. And that is if they're not even too busy. I mean, I've waited outside for over an hour before. The bank will. And then other places would do ramps, but they would do ramps without any sort of guidelines. So literally the kind of ramps that are too steep, are made out of tiles, so are slippery. They're taking no guidance as to how. Sorry?
Unsafe. It's not safe.
Not safe at all. Not safe at all. So people are like, oh, why didn't you use the ramp? Like, it's okay. My child, we don't have to get my wheelchair up a couple of steps. Safer. So yeah, that's the situation. Of course, I don't know of any single public disability toilets in the country. I don't know of any. The only places that I know are maybe in hotels. The new hotels would have. But yeah, that's about it. But yeah, and of
Yeah,
course, the new hospitals.
yeah,
The new hospital.
yeah. So what I just want to say is that there are a couple of experiences I've had in Nigeria, visiting Nigeria as frequent as I do. So this was earlier this year when I was flying from Abuja to, I think I was going to Port Harcourt, Abuja to Port Harcourt. So left Abuja, got to Port Harcourt. So in Abuja, obviously Abuja is, Nnamdi Azikiwe, bigger airport, more structure, whatever. But then getting to Port Harcourt,
Right.
somebody was on a wheelchair and they wanted to come down of the plane. They wanted to deplane. So the idea was let's get him off the plane first. Oh my God. I'm like really, really telling you, like it was just so embarrassing. Like they had to get like 4 strong, hefty men. So you have 4 men carrying somebody down the stairs. Like even when you think it's it's an airport, there should be more structure than that.
Happened to me before. Lagos to Abuja. Lagos was fine because there was like there was the ramp getting going in place. But from Abuja to get down, I had to wait for people to come and literally carry me downstairs.
Wow.
And I know that was wrong because I've been to countries. Okay, so in Nairobi, getting to Nairobi, sometimes, you don't go in through the gate, you come in over the steps, right? But then there's a way that if you get wheelchair passengers off, they have like a special vehicle that can, I don't know, with like a forklift type of thing, that can basically get wheelchair passengers off, safely and with dignity.
Yeah, they have that too. Yeah, I was just going to say they have that at Moitala, but I don't remember. I think it was this year too. When I was going back home, it was at Muitala, so they had that, and they had no, I think it was last year. I take the back, it was last year. They had someone who was like wheelchair bound. So at Muitala, there's in the middle also, there's that electronic, whatever, the stairs that they use. But that thing failed, and the person toppled and fell. I'm sorry, say that again.
So what happened? What happened?
Oh yeah, what happened was the person fell because the airport personnel, they were not trained.
God.
There's a way to operate that machine. It's not yeah. So we that were flying, I think I was flying from Atlanta, and we had to wait for an extra 2 hours because that caused a whole commotion because somebody fell because the people were not trained on how to operate that machine. And then it was just a very, very bad. Somebody's already going through so much. You have to put them through additional pain because of improper training.
I know somebody who fell, a lady who she had difficulty walking, so she came out of the plane last, and she was taking her time, and she got onto the escalator, gently, and then they turned her off. Ooh. While she was on the escalator, raise her off. And me, because I know that wheelchair thing only too well. I smile and I laugh every single time. I'm like, chai, out of all the countries in the world, you would places that you wouldn't expect to be any good. Ghana is there, Kenya is there, in South Africa, Cairo, India, they are well organized. But in Nigeria, we overlook physically challenged people. And also physically challenged people are not they're not in your face as you would have maybe in the States or in Europe. In Europe, of course you can get on the bus, the restaurants, physically challenged people are everywhere. You know what I mean? Living their lives. But in Nigeria sometimes you might be thinking, how come there are no physically challenged people, only beggars? It's not possible, You think, how come the whole country not have any physically challenged people? But they're all at home. Mm-hmm. You're all at home because how do you move? You don't have a car. Public transportation is not disabled friendly. I mean, you can imagine trying to get on one of these buses in Lagos
Oh.
as a disabled person. How?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
for public transportation is adult
Public transportation is like
program
that's a
and
no-go.
no go.
Mm-hmm.
It's already a no go. So that already cuts out your ability to move
Mm-hmm.
from A to B. You know, you would have to spend money on taxis that you might not have. So you
Mm-hmm.
find that you don't, and then we don't have like even our shopping malls and things like that. The new ones try actually. They have some like disabled toilets and stuff, and you have lifts. You can get around them quite easily. But have you ever heard of a musician called Ayefele?
Oh yeah, I know the musician. Yeah, yeah, I know him.
Yes. So there was once where his entourage had stopped at a petrol station or a gas station for you Americans.
Yeah,
And
gas
his
station. Yeah,
entourage had
thank you.
stopped, so he got out of the car. And he got out of the car, was in his wheelchair, and the gas station attendant was shooing him away. Come on, get out of here. Come on, don't beg in here. Get out of here, get out of here. Without realizing who they were talking to. Until one of the entourage was like, don't you know this guy? Blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, the apology, the groveling. But um, the immediate reaction was that this guy's in a wheelchair, he must be a beggar.
Mm. Mm. Wow.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even
We'll talk.
churches are inexcusable.
Is that because they just didn't recognize who he was, or they don't know who he was? I mean, I feel it's pretty popular.
They didn't recognize who you were.
Ah.
They didn't recognize that.
Ah. Okay.
And when they did, it was like, oh, wow, sorry, oh, I know Nigerians, they can beg.
Mm-hmm.
You can
Yeah.
apologize.
Yeah. Yeah. With the public transportation also, that's another big one. Like here in the States or even in the UK, I mean, every public bus is equipped. I mean, not just bus, the train, the metro, the boat, anything public, like it's equipped. And they have the equipment and the gadget. Every driver is trained on how to operate them. So that's something I'm not even expecting that from Nigeria at all. What I'm more expecting of more like the public access, the societal perception about the topic, and those things in general, And this is a medium where we share information. So I'm wondering if you are able to, kind of a word or two on how people who are listening, because we have a global audience, might be able to take that differently or see things in a brighter light.
I think there is hope because the new generation, younger generation are so much more aware. I think I should use the word aware. Nigerian youth are much more aware. Even those that have not been fortunate enough to travel internationally, but thanks to Netflixes and Amazon Primes, and people can now see what it's like in other countries, especially the young people. So I believe that as we move, as we continue as a country, I think these things will be looked at again in a more positive light. And I think also people that have disabilities themselves who are able should be able to speak out against certain things and talk about, what their issues are and what kind of society they would like to see. You know? So, they say here that you can't cry more than you bereaved, or you can't take Panadol for somebody else's headache. And in a way, it's kind of true because the people that need to deal with this issue are the people that have the issue. I don't know if you understand.
Yeah, and their family too. The caretakers.
So what I did, so what I did over the whole not being able to get into the bank thing was that I wrote a stinker, an email to the managing director of the bank.
Wow.
Copied in the chairman of the board of directors. I copied in everybody in corporate communications. It's easy to get the email addresses now. Somebody, their surname, first name,
the last name.
So bank.com. You know what I mean? So there was no reason why I couldn't. So I sent this email. Then I got a phone call the day after from the corporate communications. Like, they're really sorry, but that anytime I need any bank, I just need to call a particular number. They'll come outside to assist me. So again, it's all about them coming outside to assist me. So I can get assisted. But what about the other, God knows, millions of people who don't have that reach to emailing anybody or complaining? They talk about people being unbanked in Nigeria. There was a gentleman, and I'll call him a gentleman. He was really an admiral, but a gentleman, all the same. Who again, went to ballot box. We did a video with him. Him busy, and busy used to go chair. Busy rang me up the other day. He couldn't get his BVN because he can't get his leading bank to do the BVN. And they were not going to say, my BVN was because they had to go and open up the security doors at the back of the bank. I was like, I'm getting into this bank to do. This BVN is my right. I'm not, so I was able to do my business. Think about the millions of people that haven't even done BVN because they have no access to the bank.
Well, how about the election? With the election coming on, the PVC cards. How many millions of people can't get a PVC card because of this same issue?
Are they going to go in their wheelchairs and start trying to hustle with all the other people that are there jostling for position to try and get their cards? How? What about blind people? How? Unless you're maybe very affluent and you have lots of people who work with you that's able to hustle on your behalf and make sure that you get what you need to get done.
Yeah, you're talking about millions of people that are disenfranchised. Millions of people that are disenfranchised.
Yes.
Yes. Wow.
So our society is not yet. So yes, you might have a lot of empathy. Yes, you might, sympathize, but we have not yet started talking inclusion. Inclusion is such a beautiful word. Inclusion, because everybody needs to be included in society, no matter who you are. Which is what the West is doing. They're including everybody, gay, straight, trans, blind, whoever you are, everything, you're all included because you're all part of society. But here, no, it doesn't work that way because those groups that I've just spoken about are marginalized heavily, so they're not included in society. So the only people that are included in this society are straight, physically able, that's what the society includes.
Yeah. I know. Thank you for providing some context for us. As we kind of round down the conversation, if you had a word of advice or two to the government, what would that be if they are listening?
I would probably ask that a department that a complete department was set up for physically challenged people. So there should be a minister for the physically challenged. There should be a whole, ministry. And in states, a commissioner for the physically challenged. They shouldn't group it in with physically challenged youth, women, labor, housing. You know how they like to jump together. Shouldn't do that. They should focus just on the physically challenged. That will make a start from the government side. Because then they can focus on it, and they're part of the government, they're part of the cabinet. So they will sit in cabinet meetings and be able to talk about these things and drive key legislation. And make sure it's enforced. Impunity is the problem with Nigeria. So just need people who are ready to enforce. Good judiciary, good system.
What did you say the problem with Nigeria is? You said something is the problem with Nigeria. I didn't catch that.
No, I said our institutions. Our institutions are generally just weak. But definitely it was at least create this department, or whatever you want to call it, for physically challenged. That would make a real start.
Cool. And also to the.
And then
I was just saying that also to the audience listening, just the way we perceive the physically challenged. They are part of society. They are part of us. We have relatives, friends, family, loved ones. And just for me, driving in Lagos, I see people who are, the arms, people that come with ask for arms. Some of them are on the ground. I can't even see them. Some are on the ground. I can't really see them. Some are, at a stoplight or a traffic light. Just a little bit more compassion would be very. So I try to have compassion. If I have money on me, I give. Or if the person I'm with have money, let's just spread the love and just not be like, oh wow, this person is probably, doing drugs or whatever. Just that goes a long way in making their day.
Yeah, sorry, just to bother quickly. I think the problem with traffic is that a lot of them are being they're being enslaved. You know what I mean? So they're like traffickers. Yes, there are people traffickers that smuggle, that deal with disabled children especially, and they just take all their money at the end of the day. They don't feed them or anything like that. Which is why a lot of people don't like to give money to them in traffic and try to support them in other ways. And you'll also find out that the majority of them come from the north, and so there's a whole racket. This is where a lot of people don't like to support them that way. It's a shame. The whole thing is just unbearable. And I don't know why the government is not dealing with that, because every Tom, Dick, and Harry can see children begging on the roads every day, no arms, no legs, or you see children leading old men that can't see. Everybody sees this every single day. And the fact that the government, I don't know, is either unwilling to sort this, those children should be taken off the street pronto and rehabilitated. I mean, anywhere else in the world, it wouldn't speak twice. But yeah.
Wow. Yeah, everything all comes down to the government.
Yes, now. If we had this ministry, if we had a point where they could just deal with these things, dealing with it, just ignore it. And the truth of the matter is that anything can happen. I tell people anything can happen to anyone at any time. You never know when it's going to be you that get a stroke, or you don't know when some idiot is going to run over your car. You don't know what's going to happen or what can happen. So it's important that people actually really take this thing seriously.
And be more compassionate too.
Because
yeah, and the big one for me is just people, like we started out this conversation on saying things like, like you need to go and pray or you need to go and see my pastor. I mean, we just have to kind of stop that.
And that's the Bible. I've been given slips of paper. Security at Murtala Mohammed Airport will probably wait till they can write down the name of their pastor and the church. Wow. So that I can next time I'm in Nigeria, wherever, I should come to Edo State. I'm thinking, what needs to go on? I should come to Edo State. I should come to Akwa Ibom. That's okay. The pastor is very powerful. I'm thinking, your pastor is just a man.
Yeah, pastor is just a man. Wow.
Yes, no.
Yeah. On that note, we'll kind of wrap it up. I really, really want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your patience with me, even though I was kind of nagging you. I apologize. Because I know your schedule is quite packed. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time. I really, really appreciate it. And, thank you guys for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Please go ahead and share this episode if it's something that you relate to. And if you can just help us spread the word, we really, really appreciate that. You can always follow us on our social media handles as well. Until next time, thank you guys. All right, bye now.